Well, not only the stress test, but the future of financial reform are very much in focus right now. Our next guest has called the Dodd-Frank bill the Dodd-Frank fiasco, saying that the 2,000-plus pages of financial reform bill will be a threat to future economic growth. We want to bring him in now. John Taylor is professor at California's Stanford University, also a former Treasury Undersecretary during President Bush's term. Professor, thank you for joining us. Before we get to those topics, I want to ask you if you would react to those headlines Scarlett just went through there in terms of the haircuts that European banks will have to take. Perhaps not a surprise that there's some exposure there, but does this change your outlook at all for the health of Europe right now?
No, I don't think so, because those are the kinds of numbers people have been talking about. In fact, even a little bit less, I think. I think there's expectation that at some point the Greek debt will have to be restructured, and so those percentages that you mentioned seem kind of modest, actually. So I think that's probably a positive thing right now.
You do expect a Greek restructuring of debt, don't you?
I think so. Certainly down the road, the spreads have been continued to be very high even after the rescue package, and if you look at the numbers, and a lot of people have, it looks like they're going to have to restructure. I don't think that in itself has to be chaotic. It could be quite orderly. Their debt is structured in a way it could be changed without a lot of problems, it seems to me. So I think that's probably what they'll do. We don't know when exactly, but it's quite likely.
All right. Well, let's bring it back home here. Give me a sense, because we're talking about heavy debt loads in Europe. U.S. states themselves are dealing with this. The U.S. federal government is dealing with tremendous debt burden. Is it overstating things, as some have said, to say that we are staring down the barrel of another Great Depression here?
Oh, I think it is overstating things. There are deep problems. I think our debt is a problem. It's because we've been reminded about that from what's happened in Europe and Greece. We got to address that. But I think there's, people talking about a double dip. I think this is a pause or a slowdown to some extent. You see this in just about every recovery. I think the real problem is we don't see this kind of V-shaped recovery people have been hoping. It's kind of U-shaped and slow. There's a lot of uncertainty out there causing that.
All right. John, I want to ask you here, I know you've had some strong words and thoughts about the financial reform bill that has been put forward. I want to pull from your editorial you recently published. You say, instead of trying to make implementation of existing government regulations more effective, the bill vastly increases the power of government in ways that are unrelated to the recent crisis and may even encourage future crises. Specifically, what are the risks that are created?
I think the most significant to me, it's creating a new ability for the federal government to intervene between a financial institution and its creditors that haven't been able to do that before. And so that raises uncertainty about when interventions will take place, and I think that's a concern about causing. But in addition, it creates many more entities of Bureau of Financial, Consumer Protection, et cetera, which I think it doesn't really come to the heart of the crisis. I could say one simple thing. The Congress appointed a Financial Crisis Inquiry Commission to lay out what went on, and in the meantime, they're passing this legislation even before the commission's finished with its report. So right. I think it doesn't address the problem is the main issue for me.
Well, certainly there was popular will and political concern that there had to be something done sooner rather than later, perhaps before that autopsy was published. But I know on the economic front you say that responding to political will is extremely dangerous if it's done too soon. I mean, do you think Absolutely. On the economic front that there is a corollary here in terms of the current debate about cutting stimulus?
Well, absolutely. I think what people want now is some more certainty, greater certainty. This bill adds, because of its complexity at least, the enormous amount of uncertainty. And so they could certainly wait till December when this commission's finished. And with respect to the deficit, your question is I think, quite appropriate. What people want now is some certainty about how we're going to resolve this growing and immense debt. It's a major inconsistency. So if the government could lay out a plan, the Congress, the administration, and not increase the deficits further, as some are talking, I think that would be a boost to the economy, much more of a boost than another so-called fiscal stimulus that some people are thinking about.
I want to also ask you, because of your term as undersecretary, today we're hearing from President Obama, we're expected to hear from him, on his efforts to boost U.S. exports, and he's naming a number of U.S. CEOs to his advisory council here. Can the U.S. realistically double exports in the next 5 years with the yuan where it is right now, not being fully flexible?
I think there's a lot of capability for greater trade and opening. I think some of the points made about these free trade agreements, Colombia, for example, that's quite welcome because the president in the campaign had been against those, and now that he wants to pursue it, I think that's good. That's the kind of thing that you need.
He's been talking about that
rates
for a while, though. I mean, it's getting those free trade agreements through Congress that's a challenge here.
Well, he can, that would be a great thing to put to the Congress right now. I think he could get, with his leadership and emphasizing how important it is for the economy, it would be terrific. It would be a great boost to confidence and would certainly help reach those export goals. I think that's the thing I would focus on, is greater free trade, greater opening, and encouraging this trade that is so important right now. Exchange rates are a factor, to be sure, but the main thing is this general opening across the world.
All right. Professor Taylor, thank you for making time for us this morning. We always enjoy speaking with you.